Hello again. This is the Watering Man, Spiritual Toolbox number 58, audio recording number 376, the Love chapter number 34, examination table number 38. On my YouTube thing last time, I didn't put in the little description, Spiritual Toolbox number 57. It's just audio recording number 375, okay? Down in the comments, I wrote Spiritual Toolbox number 57, and I said it on the recording, okay? Just so you could keep it in order, and I like order. Okay, thank you. Now, we're still doing from the love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, but I'm going off of that for a little bit and going into kind of as a reference showing like another little spiritual toolbox. I'm probably have to do a series of these because I've got like 7 pages of notes here to cover. It's not exhaustive, but it's deeper. Okay? And I don't know how many recordings it'll take to cover that, these little half-hour things, but we'll get it done. Okay, so now I'm going to start out. It's Isaiah chapter 40, verse 30 and 31. I'm going to start out reading those 2 verses from the King James Version, which I started at the end of the last chapter, kind of as a little preview taster. This is showing how God is like, there's where we're way off the mark, starting out like a radio wave, real lumpty-dumpty-dumpty, way up here real high and down here real low. And God's love is always the same. He loves us beyond words. Loves that seed growing back into the right-mindedness of God. And He gets the increase, not us. All we do is agree, right back into Him, and He pulls us through the side of the needle. Well, this is like another way, going from a radio wave way out here. The amplitude is all, how far you're off that mark, off that love of God, is humongous. Way out there. Okay, you're real slow and you're barely crossing that God, maybe He loves me. And then, no, He don't know I'm a bad guy. No, and then as you get farther along in your maturing process, and this is in each and every area of our thinking process, and we have a myriad, an innumerable number of ways that we can think. So he's compressing that amplitude down with fiery trials and through thalipsis. He's doing this all the way down, and it goes in from like this radio waves to microwaves, infrared waves, to that visible light spectrum. It's just Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, violet, indigo, blue. Blue, indigo, violet. Oh, sorry, Biv. Roy G. Biv, okay? Okay, and that's just like 300 nanometers. Although it's a very, very tiny. That's all that we can see with our natural mind. That's all that we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell inside. That's as far down as we can think. Like it's like all the way down to the size of a hair, 0.1 millimeters. Take a millimeter and cut it 10 times, and that's as much as we can see, no matter how good our eyesight is. In the natural, unaided, that's as far down as we can see, reliably. And our mind twists stuff when we're seeing. It's always seeing, it's not believing. But yet we're thinking, if we're trusted in that carnal mind, in that carnal thinking, we're saying, oh, seeing is believing. If I don't see, hear, taste, touch, and smell it with my own eyes and all this stuff, I won't believe it. Well, God takes that little tiniest thing we see, or the tiniest thing we can think. It's like He expands that up to the size of the whole observable universe and beyond. Because what, as far as light has had like time to move, all those millions and stuff of years, at the speed of light, 86,000 miles per second. God, it doesn't mean that's the end of it. That's not the end of God's thinking. See, this natural stuff just teaches us about the spiritual things. What God's doing inside is far exceeds. God is your exceeding great reward, okay? So this is showing through all these pressures, these tribulations, these calamities, these fiery trials, this press, all this stuff is used to make like a diamond or a pearl of great price. You know, in that pearl, that little piece of sand down in that clam, it grinds and irritates and causes it to form that. It's pressing. These are all showing in different ways. Metaphors, painting the picture of what how God's doing this. Okay, and this thing like this sine wave going all the way down, that's coming from a radio wave all the way down through the microwaves, to the infrared, to the visible light spectrum, which is a tiny, tiny portion, all of it that we can see, going on up to ultraviolet rays into X-rays, which originate outside the nucleus, outside of God, and then all the way back in and SYN God, like to that diamond that's the fastest frequency, but the lowest amplitude, lowest off the mark. It's right in. It's EN and SYN, God's right-mindedness, God's love beyond words. He's bringing us home. We're returning to the right-mindedness of God, to the righteousness of God, okay? You know, so, and this is in each and every area. So it goes, okay, now this is showing in this Isaiah 40, verse 30 and 31 is showing this, and it's slowing down, going from flying to running to walking. Okay, I'm going to break this down, and hopefully it'll come out. I'll be able to articulate out what God showed me in this. This is not exhaustive, but I'm going to get down there, open it up more. Okay? Start out wanting to fly, and slow down in your thinking processes. Start running, and then you slow down more, and start walking or living, reliving in Christ, relying upon your salvation. The battle is the Lord's. It's not your battle way out here and way down there, and you're missing the mark, the will of God, almost always. You don't know where you're at. You're way out here in Lumpty Dumpty Dumpty land, or down here in Lumpty Dumpty Dumpty land. Left field and right field. But you're not right on this love that's beyond words. Okay? Now, start out by reading this Isaiah chapter 40, verse 30 and 31, okay? Now, this is all speaking about how God's bringing us back from out of this poopy thinking, our own righteousness, towards, to the eye of the needle, right back in EN and SYN, in union with God, resting in God, relying upon God. God's our sufficiency. He doesn't need our help. We just agree with Him and enjoy the fullness of life in God. In each and every thought process, He's bringing that order, that level of our ability to think as He does, to love as He does, beyond words, in each and every area of our thinking process, little by little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept, thought process upon thought process. He's bringing us back to the right-mindedness of God as we exist. Agree. No matter what the circumstances, the pressures, the fiery trials, the pressure, the thlipsis, the tribulations, calamities in our lives going on, these circumstances external and putting pressure on us internal and the way we think. Can't even sleep. I'm so messed up. Right? God's, I hurt so bad I can't even think. Oh, I've been there. Lots. Okay? But God's compressing it and bringing it little by little by little, adding it and increasing the glory, His glory in us. He's transforming that yuck thinking, surrounding each one of those little plank length size thought processes, those seeds of Christ in us. He's cutting that out and increasing it back into His glorious love beyond words, His name, His nature, character, and authority. You know, I think the King James saying we can do all things through, Jesus Christ. It's E-N. I think it's 1722. I could go there and look, but I'm right here on this one right now. Okay? It's E-N. That's resting in Him. It's God's sufficient. It's God's battle, not ours. I will call up all of our friends and have them pray and all this stuff, and that's you can request. That is great. But then you got to complete that love, that thinking process. You got to be still. Be quiet. Put a muzzle on that old dog thinking, that alpha dog you knew, that hee-hawing donkey, that parakeet, and listen to that still small voice. At whatever order, as it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, or more glorious. It's really not increasing in size, but the density. That plank length size seed increases. Because God is higher, as we're agreeing. It's growing from 1 to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8. It's growing in percentage of God's enlightenment of His love beyond words. It's growing back into God's, all the way back in, and that's why in union with God and in Him, resting in Him. The battle is the Lord's, not ours. We got to do spiritual warfare on this stuff. You're way out here. Not relying upon this. God's love, God's will. The battle is the Lord's. You can say it. Even believe it. Be sincere as all you want. But you can be sincerely missing the mark. Whether you're doing it intentional or unintentional, peroptima. Okay? Where they translate as a sin. Or harmatia. As an archer shooting at the target, trying to hit that, but it's still missing it. Even if you're all the way out here in this thought process out to an x-ray, it's still not originating from God, from inside this nucleus of the atom. It's originating outside of the nucleus. It's very, very right down, real close, but it's not yet completed. See, God's pressing us. Much pressure. He's making some like diamonds. What does it take in the natural to make diamonds? A lot of pressure, fire trials, these precious stones, these pearls of great price. Okay, I'm going to show you. Try to show you. If I don't jump too far ahead, so I'm going to probably be repeating some things, but this is not grievous. I don't mean it's grievous. Redundancy. No. This is to break it in. You need to get this in your long-term memory. Not just do it once and I'm done with it. I swallowed it and that's it. I digested it and I pooped it out. Unclean animal. Regurgitate it into that second stomach to redigest it, rethink about it, relive it, get all that you can out of this thing. Over and over and over. Because see, how is that baptismo where it's dipping those thought processes in that vinegar solution, that bitter, sour, really harsh to that old fleshly thinking. It's like piss. It's nasty. It's terrible. But to God, that is, see, the mind of God and that one's own carnal mind, carnal thinking are enmity. They're directly opposed. God's bringing you out of this stuff. And this old stinking thinking, this good and bad, this Satanus and Diabolos thinking inside you, is trying to get you focused out here on some monster when it's right inside of you is the monster that you're being subjected to, not willingly, but in hope. God's bringing you back into where you are freedom, walking or living inside your mind in each and every area, but you got to come through this. There have been many that stays out here in this la-la land. God is not permitting it. And bringing it down. As the pressure increases, that's maybe as far as a lot of people can go. You got to go into as far as God wants you to go in each and every area of your thinking process. Okay? Don't wimp out. Don't turn back like Lot's wife, okay? Now, I've been going on there for 16 minutes on that. Now, let's go ahead on Isaiah chapter 40, verse 30 and 31. Verse 30 says, even the youth shall fail and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. Right? But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Kind of hard to say that King James language sometimes. And then knowing a lot of these words are not complete or totally off the mark or give you the wrong picture. Let's look. Okay? Dissect it. Documajo. Lay it out there, examine it. Not just that we may prove it, baby. No. Let's get her down, baby. Lay it out there, man. Take it. Get all these tools God's giving you. He's giving you some dissection tools. Man, dissect that thing out there. Expose that beast nature. Get rid of it. Here, yeah, God, cut this thing out. Oh, it's nasty. This old way I was thinking, I can't believe I wasted all that time. God says, no, it wasn't a waste. This is to bring you to giving you these tools and stuff to bring you to the ability to where I can show you. It's right where you're right where I want you to be. God's placing you in the body, inside himself, in his right-mindedness, in his love beyond words, in him, as he sees fit, not as you see fit. Oh, if I just pray harder, or I just did this, that's that carnal mind kind of condemning you and trying to shame you. You should have done do more in your temple. Do. Right? I wasn't stuttering. I was saying like that carnal mind is constantly just lambasting you or puffing you up. And then puffing you up with arrogance and pride and haughtiness and patting you on the back stuff. That's like that Satanist thing. It's an imposter of light. It's telling you you're good, great. And you're doing great swallowing this old bullshit hot dog. And this, you're eating my crap. Me, myself, and I crap. As you're seeing, hearing, taste, touch, and smells based on all this external stuff. It's garbage. Now change that. Repent. Change from that thing. Metanoia. Change the way you think about that. Come back to the mind of God with God in control of that. Don't have that I, that ego. That me, myself, and I is all important. It don't matter how I get to the end. Just that I get in there. Yep. All this, I can do it underhanded and crooked and all this stuff. And it don't matter. As long as I polish up the outside of my cup and I look good. Doing it, then that's great. No, it's not. That's a BS hot dog. Okay? It's imposter posing as good, as light. I understand what God is love, how great. No, it's very conditional love. God's bringing you from that conditional out back into the mind of God, to that love beyond words. He's completing that child, bringing it back around to whatever level in each and every thought process to the Racham, completing that level, that order, that magnitude, that frequency, and reducing the magnitude to whatever, that amplitude, of whatever, wherever God's placed you in his thinking processes. Okay? Now, so I keep getting all trying to explain stuff on all these things, but that's okay. Let's get her down here and start looking at this, breaking it down a little bit. Now, that back in verse 30 of Isaiah chapter 40. Get tongue-tied there. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. Now, the very first word translated there is 3286. They translated as shall faint. Y-A, or a little curly Q apostrophe, A-P. It's this word.
Strong's H 3286. Ya'af. Ya'af.
Ya'af. They have that as shall faint. Okay? And it's a primitive root. In the Strong's, it means to tire, as if from wearisome flight. In the BDB lexicon, it means be weary or to faint. Okay? It's a tire from laboring and stuff, being pressured and heated up and all this. I'm so tired of this. Right? All right. Now, shall faint. And then the second word that they translate is even the use. It's number 5288. N-A, that little curly Q thing. A-R, this word.
Strong's H 5288. Na'er. Na'er.
Na'er. Okay. And, hang on just a second here. Yeah. That's a masculine noun. It comes from 5287. And online it means a boy, a lad, servant, a youth. It's like an infant up to an adolescence, up to like a 12-year-old. From a toddler or a baby up to, it's a boy. And a little boy, little kid trying to lead like a mature adult. That means 30 years old or over. And that's just because you're that age in the natural, 30 or 50 or 70 or whatever, doesn't mean inside God has matured those thought processes, brought those to the eye of the needle yet. Okay? There's been time, but not, God has not permitted. Or for whatever reason, they have not agreed. They stomp, jump up and down, whatever. But it doesn't matter. If God permit, they'll go on beyond these rudimentary principles, these elementary things. If God doesn't permit, God gives the increase, not us. All we do is agree. Whenever you get these opportunities, agree. These are precious opportunities. These are not to you to, oh man, this is God just tormenting me. Why are you doing this to me? No. This is an opportunity for you to overcome. And you only overcome not out of your might and your power, your strength, your ability. No. Because I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and I'm a great big guy. I'm 10 foot tall. That's not why you do it. It's by agreeing in hot pursuit back into God and continuing. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, 16, 32. Right? You're double every time. Right back, you're falling back into love with God. That's what you're doing. I've been saying this. Okay? Now, okay, so this young lad that really hasn't been from a tiny boy or a girl, an infant, up to a adolescence, up to getting ready for a teenager. See, like a brephos is an unborn child. Nepios is a 0 to a 2-year-old. Simple-minded, immature, non-speaking Christian or child of God. Okay? That's a toddler. And many of those, but not many paters all the way back into the Father. Right? Not, from out of, towards, to, into, and in, resting in God. And that's why in union with God. Okay? Now, from this unborn child to this nepios, which is 0 to 2-year-old, and this pation, which is like this word right here, air.
Strong's H 5288. Nair.
Okay, no air in that guy, or no air in that person. No, none of the spirit. They're not very deep into that, man. They just kind of like a little kid. It's still way out there. Woo, woo. They might be up to maybe a microwave in it. Or maybe they might even be all the way up to like a infrared, or I don't know if they're even in the visible light spectrum yet, but they might be. That's just a little tiny blip, and they think, man, this is it. Okay. And that's in each and every area of your thinking process. Don't let that tell you. Tell the more mature. Right, okay. Brephos, nepios, pation. Then the teknon is like a teenager. And then the weos would be like a 30-year-old in the spirit. Mature son. And then going from 30 all the way into 50 is like the high priest going right back into the pater, the father, the parents. In the spirit, there's neither male or female. God is one. It's the parents back into the origin, back in that nucleus, resting in God. Woo! Okay. Now, this no air, I'm going to call it no air, okay, is a youth. It's a boy. It's from the age of infancy to adolescence, okay? And it means in the DBD lexicon, it's a shaking.
It's 10:31 a.m. Enjoy the sunshine, Lloyd.
I don't know why Alexa spoke, but be quiet. In the DBD, it's saying a shaking or scattering ones. They're like, ooh, I'm scared. There's so much stuff going on in me. Oh, they're little kids. They're not toddlers. They can speak a little bit, but it's out there. Okay? So these youths, okay, says, shall faint, these youths shall faint, they grow weary, tired of this pressure in your life. Giving up, turning back like Lot's wife, turning into a big old pillar of salt, okay? Now, whatever shall faint, even the youth now, and be weary. It says, yeah. Oh, okay, I was looking wrong. And be weary. Number 3021. It's spelt like yoga, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced different. It's a verb. It's a primitive root. Okay, it's this word.
Strong's H 3021. Yaga.
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 Okay, and it's online. It means to cause to be weary. Strong just saying to be exhausted, to tire, to toil, like, labor, okay? And the DBD says it's grow weary. The Hebrew lexicon says it's labor, especially with effort and toil, and so as to become weary. They're working themselves to death, and they're getting tired, okay? Also in that one, it's saying to be fatigued, wearied out, or just worn out. Worn flat out, these youths are. Okay? Because this is at best, they're only up to maybe visible light spectrum. It's tiny. What they see is that they believe only what they see. These circumstances, this external stuff, and they're no more than a kid. Okay, I'm going to have to cut her off. This thing's going to time out on me. This has been Spiritual Toolbox number 58. I'll continue a little later. Bye-bye.